If you want to close more people in your network marketing business in less time, get ready for one of the best trainings with the master of network marketing, Tom Big AL Schreiter. He's trained more 6 and 7 figure income earners than anybody in the industry. And today's training is a masterclass he did for my team on how to get attention and close your prospects in just 17 seconds. So get ready to take some notes because Tom is dropping one value bomb after the other in this training. Let's get to it.
First thing to realize is prospects are going to make an immediate decision. Just think about this. Two cavemen meet in the forest. They've never seen each other. They have about 1 second to determine if that person is a friend or foe. And if they get it wrong, they don't reproduce. They die. So we come from a long history of people of generations and generations that have had our minds trained to prejudge people and prejudge them harshly. Now, if you don't believe that people prejudge us, here's just an easy example. You go to talk to somebody about your business and they say they're not interested. Has that ever happened? And you think, okay, not interested in what? I haven't even told you about the business yet. I haven't told you about the magic patents or the company background or warehousing or no. They've already made a decision. People prejudge us harshly, not on the facts. And you say, boy, that's pretty cruel, but what about real life? What about today? Do people prejudge that quickly? And I think last time we talked, Patrick, I gave the example of, I'm going to ask everybody here if you like to have your children go skydiving with me. And ask yourself, how quick was that decision? Probably in a microsecond, you said, oh, no, I can't take my babies, or I'd help push them out of the plane, depending on your relationship with the children. And you go, all right, that was quick. I made the decision before you told me that you're a certified skydiver, successful 3 out of 4 times, that we're only going to skydive 1 inch. I made the decision before the information, before the facts. I guess I do it too. And we do it all the time. I say, you want to go to the donut shop with me? You don't need a whole presentation on the history of donuts or Mr. Donut or the founder of Donut. When you go down a grocery store aisle and you look at the first thing, cornflakes. Oh, cornflakes. Tell me about Mr. Cornflake. Is the cornflakes organic or inorganic? Natural, supernatural? Tell me about the ingredients. Have they won any awards lately? This is not how we decide. We make instant decisions, and we are delusional if we believe that our prospects don't do the same with us. So let's, summer coming up, let's go to the beach. You're laying on the beach. A man comes toward you, 3-piece suit, carrying a briefcase, some brochures. What prejudgment have we made? Salesman, pretend not to see him, hope he goes somewhere else. Instantly. So when we talk to people, I'm going to give you some bad news. It's not about our company. And you say, but our company is wonderful. It doesn't matter. But our company has all these great things. It doesn't matter. What matters is something entirely different. So when we talk to people, they're going to make an instant decision based on 0 facts. Once we get past that, we can start saying, okay, what can I do to fix this? I'm only going to have a few seconds here to talk to people. How am I going to get them to make some decisions? So we can guide them a little bit with some words. Now, there's lots of ways to build rapport. If we have time here, I'll cover a few more. But let me just start with a real easy phrase in case everybody here falls asleep. At least you'll have one good note to take. And that is, write down the word if, I-F, and then a slash, and then write the word then, T-H-E-N. Now, there is a program in the human mind that says if anybody says if and then, whatever you say after then has to be true. You go, what? Well, we're not here to talk about how messed up the human brain is. I'm just saying accept it as a fact. Let's get on with it. We don't have time to go into the neuroscience. But if you use if and then, it does something, or triggers something in the prospect's brain that says whatever you say after the word then must be true. So let's try this. If you believe in magic words, then you'll do everything possible to learn more of them so you can make more money. If you want to lose weight quickly, then you should take these tablets before every meal. If you want your skin to be younger, then you should stay out of the sun and apply sunscreen. You say if and then. So if we just start out with just if and then, what happens? A lot of their judgment goes away. They're just listening to a little bit of our message, and they will prejudge that message, just like we prejudge if you want to go to the donut shop with me. You say, well, that was pretty easy. I can use if and then in my ads. I could use it in my Facebook posts. I could use it when I talk to people. And you say something like this. If you would like to have 3-day weekends for the rest of your life, then we should talk. And they're thinking, yeah, we should talk. What's it about? So if and then works on the principle of, there's lots of them going on here, but one of the principles is people are not going to make a decision on what our company is, our background, our history, our record sales the previous month. They're going to make a decision usually based on, I have this problem. You just promised me an outcome. Well, it fixed the problem. I said, oh, okay. So the decision isn't about whether to join the company or not. No. The decision is, do you like the outcome I propose to you that may fix your problem? You say, well, how do I know if they have a problem? Well, that's why companies need network marketers. You just can't email people out and say you got a problem. And you're not going to find out a problem unless you spend a little bit of time with people. So you might ask them some questions, build some rapport, which we'll be talking about shortly. But just using the simple statement, if and then, people say, well, whatever you say next probably is going to be true. Now, if you have a moment here and write down your favorite product, and while you're writing down your favorite product, think, what if and then statement could I use? If you're tired of always being on a diet, then this will get rid of your diet worries forever. If you're only getting 2% interest in the bank, then you might want to invest in something with a better return. Okay. Say, well, what else could I represent? Let's say you represent travel. If you love to take great holidays and vacations, then you will like this travel service that gets them to you at wholesale. And people say, well, I guess I'm going to like it. Remember, they're making the decision on the outcome. The biggest mistake I made when I started was I gave a 1-hour presentation, long presentations all the time, with all the details they need to know about the company, and that had nothing to do with their decision. I was so far off base. So if you've been trying to show PowerPoint slides, etc., or company videos, etc., it might be time to change. We say, all right, all I'm going to do now is look for people that have a problem that my product or opportunity can solve. Then I will offer them my wonderful solution. And then they can make a decision if they want me to fix their problem or not. That's all that is about network marketing. That's the easiest way. Now, you're probably going to ask, so let's do it now. What if people don't have a problem? I don't know any of those people, but let's imagine that you talk to somebody that didn't have a problem. You say, well, like a millionaire. Well, A millionaire may have all the money the millionaire needs, but their friends may not. And your millionaire would like their friends to be rich too, so they could all take holidays together. So most people have a problem if you talk to them long enough. If they don't have a problem, then you have to say, all right, we got this wonderful stuff. Why don't you try this wonderful stuff? You're back into convincing. It's a little bit harder. Let's say it's a lot harder. It's probably impossible if we have low-level skills when we first start. So the best thing to do is find people with a problem. Ask them, do you want to fix this problem? Ask them, well, when would you like to fix the problem? And that's pretty much your entire sales presentation. So if you want to fix your problem now, then we should do this. How hard was that? If you want a paycheck by next Thursday, then we should start today. If and then are very powerful words that triggers a super program in the brain that makes it easy for us. And what's interesting about it is after we say then, they're going to believe what we say after the word then without too much judgment on our expertise, which is kind of fun. So we don't have to worry about our own personal credibility, or if we don't know them very long, or if we're not influential, we can still have that effect. So if you want to have Mondays off for the rest of your life, then we should talk. What's the outcome? The outcome we're selling here is we should sit down and talk. When they sit down and talk, says, well, do you really want Mondays off for the rest of your life? Yeah. When would you like those to start? Well, as soon as possible. Says, well, if we start a part-time business, you can earn enough money, I don't know, to cover 20% of your salary, which should cover Monday's paycheck. And that might take 6 months. So in 6 months from now, we can make this work. So if you want to, then simple as that. Let's do one more real easy one. This is a mind reading trick. And you say, well, it's kind of a trick, yeah, but it just works so good. It's just so much fun to do. So if you were able to read somebody's mind, how would they feel about you? They might be saying, well, you have superpowers that I can only aspire to. You have high-level mind-reading ninja skills. Say, all right, so how am I going to do this? So ask yourself, how are you going to get people to say, I really want what you have to offer because I have this problem and you understand my problem. Say, well, we're going to create this really great rapport thing by starting off with these words. If you are like most people. Now, if you start off by saying, if you are like most people, what's going to happen? Well, as soon as you say most people, what do you think most people think? Well, I'm part of most people. I'm not part of less people. I mean, I want to be part of most people because most people, that's why in social groups, I don't want to not be part of the tribe. I want to belong. I don't want to be an outcast. So most people want to be part of most people. If you don't believe that, try this experiment. Go to some restaurants, take a look. There's 2 restaurants. One is empty, one's entirely full with a line out the door. Which one do we want to eat at? And we're thinking, oh, probably the busy one. Because, well, there's more people there. We want to do what most people do because it's probably safe. They went there before me. If I go to the Swiss Alps and discover a new bush with a berry on it, do you want to be the first one to eat those berries? You'd probably say, no. I want other people to go before me. So we are programmed to do what most people want to do. Now, if we say, if you are like most people, it does some weird things that make people say, gosh, you're probably going to read my mind. You're probably going to think what I think. Now, if you think what I think, can I trust you? Yeah, because you see the world from the same viewpoint I do. So let's try this. If you are like most people, comma, you are probably thinking, I'll give you a chance to write that down. If you are like most people, comma, you are probably thinking. Now, let's give them a chance. What am I thinking? And we're going to tell them. Now, when we tell them what they think, and they think, man, you understand me so well, you got to be an expert on this problem. You're going to be able to help me because you just understand me intensely. So, how do you know what they're thinking? Well, most people think the same. So you don't have to worry too much about it. So if I'm going to stand up and do a Zoom call for an opportunity meeting for 20 people, I might start off the Zoom meeting by saying, all right, if you're like most people, you're probably thinking, how long is this going to take? Because I know they're all thinking that because they want to get back to Facebook scrolling cat videos. So if you're like most people, you probably just want the short story. They go, short story? Yeah, I want the short story. Everybody wants the short story because that means it's just a story. It's not going to be a sales presentation. So if you are like most people, you're tired of dieting. If you are like most people, you hate Monday mornings. I never had somebody tell me I just love Monday mornings at work. Never. So if you are like most people, you probably could find a way to use more money. Yeah. If I'm rich, I could find a way to use more money. If you are like most people, you want to stop looking for opportunities and finally do one. If you are like most people, you're probably thinking this would just be a great mind reading trick that will so impress my prospects. They'll be making yes decisions that they can trust me and believe me before I even tell them what it is. And that's the idea. So how do you know? Well, you can maybe start off by just asking them some questions to find out their problems, but most people think the same. So if you're like most people, fill in the blanks. You can use if and then. And you say, this is pretty easy to get people involved and have them make an instant decision. And this is in seconds before you even start doing anything. You say, well, what else can I do for mind reading? Well, there's a little sentence here. We're going to call it, I feel you want to. I feel you want to. And we're going to tell them what we feel they want to do. And they say, well, if you understand me and feel what I feel, you're obviously an expert in the area. You understand me better than I do. You know the solutions. We're starting off pretty good. So you could say, if you want to actually start a business instead of just constantly looking for one, then we could talk. You say, oh, now we're starting to put them together. You might be asking, well, why do we use the word feel? Feel is an emotion. It's more powerful than just thinking facts. Now, as most of us know, our subconscious mind is like 99.9% of our brain, and our conscious mind is like almost nothing. Our conscious mind thinks in words, it does math, it spells, reads. The subconscious mind doesn't really do that. It runs on programs that just makes everything work. And how does the subconscious mind communicate to the conscious mind to tell it what to do? Since it doesn't have words, it does it through feelings. So when you talk about feelings, These are emotions from the subconscious mind that direct the conscious mind to make yes or no decisions. Now, they did an experiment back in, this would be 28 years ago. This is really fun. They took people and did these fMRIs, like super brain waves on their head. And they said, let's find out how people make decisions. And I'm thinking, wouldn't that be the most interesting research you and I would ever come across? I go, yeah, that would be interesting because that's what we do for a living. We get people to make decisions. So I'm all over this research. I said, so what did the research show? And they said, well, research didn't come out the way we wanted it to. We found out that people make their decisions almost instantly on no information. So how does that happen? Because of the feelings from the subconscious mind tells the conscious mind what to do. And it also said, this is a little bit disturbing, that the decisions people make are really not thinking decisions from the conscious mind. We really make decisions based upon our feelings and our programming. And if you say, well, prove that to me. All right. So let's use our thinking mind. The best way to be healthy is to wake up early in the morning at 4 a.m. and run 10 miles. And then after that, we're going to exercise and eat some grass from our front lawn and take, all these superfoods. But do we do that? No, because we have an emotion inside our subconscious mind that says, I really feel like laying in bed. It just really feels good. And so we don't. So people do things based upon feelings and emotions, not on facts. He says, so am I wasting my time when I do all these presentations with facts? And the answer is possibly, because that's not what's going to determine the yes or no decision. So if you want to know the exact sequence the human mind makes a decision, it runs something like this. And it's pretty much controlled by our subconscious mind programs. But here it is. It happens in 5 steps. The subconscious mind or conscious mind here is asking 5 questions. Now, of these 5 questions, we can't do anything about the first one. The first question is, who are you? You say, well, what's about that? Well, they're looking for influence. Are you somebody important? Somebody's going to influence me, somebody I should respect. So who we are, we can't change that in the next 17 seconds. So who we are is just who we are. We can't do much about that, especially when we're in front of our sales prospects. So let's just set that aside for now because that's outside of our control. Question number 2 is, can I trust you and believe you? Now, I trust my brother-in-law, but I don't believe him when he tells me about neuroscience. I trust my brother-in-law, but I don't believe him when he starts telling me about the microbiology of a certain nutrient. So there's 2 things here, trust and belief. Now, we've been talking about the trust and belief this whole time. And the reason we have is that's the most important part. Beyond a doubt, that's number 1, trust and belief. You say, okay, so all I have to do is get people to trust me and believe me, and everything else is downhill. It's pretty much easy. And the answer is yes. So the second question is, can I trust you and believe you? Now, if you are somebody they know, you're probably pretty close to already there. If you're somebody that's a stranger and they just met you, you might have to use some of these word sequences to get there. Now, once they trust us and believe us, the next question in their mind is, well, what's this all about? So, what's up? What's new? What's this conversation about? This is called an icebreaker. This is where we make the offer of what we can do that produces an outcome. So our icebreaker could be, I just found out how we can have 3-day weekends forever. I just found out how we have a good night's sleep every night. I just found out how we can fall asleep like a baby, but not wake up every 3 hours crying. So that's the icebreaker. The third thing is, uh, you say, well, all right, I kind of got that. The third thing is the decision. You say, well, what do you mean by the third thing is the decision? Well, they want to decide, if they want to do it or not. They want the outcome or they don't. Well, actually, it'd be number 4 if you're counting the first question. And the last thing is the presentation. So our presentation is the last, most useless part of our entire conversation with people. So, okay, so which ones are more important? If you're going to put them on a chart, I would say you can't do anything about the first one, influence. But you can do something about rapport. We can use these magic words if we don't have them. We can do something about icebreakers, making really good offers that sounds like it's going to fix their problem. The decision, guess what? That happens automatically. As soon as they hear our offer, they're going to make an instant, from their subconscious mind, an instant yes or no decision if they want our offer or not. Instantly. So we don't have to worry about all this closing stuff. What's the last thing? Presentation. And the only people that even hear a presentation are those people that have decided they want the outcome. Because if they don't want the outcome, let's talk about something else. It's not for them. I had somebody call me and I say, I'm a distributor and I can't get people to buy. I'm trying to get these 2 people to buy and they just won't buy. And I'm thinking, okay, let's try this. Let's say you were at an Apple store. You worked there as a clerk at the mall. Nice Apple store. And inside the store, you're looking out and you see somebody walk by. They walk by, they don't buy. It's okay. It's not for them. They don't need the offer of an apple right now. So you don't have to convince everybody. All we have to do is do these 5 things. Be influential, which we can learn to do. Create rapport. Icebreakers. This is such a simple business if we just keep it to the basics. Now, let me do 1 or 2 more quick report, little tricks, and then we'll open up for questions. There's a little phrase that goes, there is an old saying. Now, if I were to say there's an old saying, whatever I say next, we're probably going to think it's going to be true. Why? Because it's an old saying. Now, are there old sayings in Russia or Denmark or Netherlands or US or China? Yeah, there's old sayings everywhere. So you could say there's an old saying that dying early is inconvenient. There's an old saying that we got to work. We might as well work for ourselves instead of our boss. There's an old saying, there's 2 types of travel, wholesale and resale. So there's an old saying that just gets people to say it feels comfortable. Now, there's an old saying that 2 paychecks are better than 1. Probably where you are, there's an old saying that a stitch in time saves 9, or never put your tongue on a frozen pipe. There are lots of old sayings we could say. All right. That'd be a pretty good one. And so, how about this one? Try telling people just a simple fact they already believe. Now, if you tell people a simple fact that they already believe, they say, wait a minute. You and I think the same. Instant rapport. I can trust you and believe you. And now when you say good things about your offer or your business or your product, I can believe you. A good way to illustrate this is you take a holiday to China. And let's say you're from Denmark. So while in China, there's 1 billion Chinese people around you. You look around and you go, 1 billion Chinese people around me. And then you see somebody from Denmark. And you go, wow, you're from Denmark. Where are you from? I'm from Aalborg. Where are you from? Copenhagen. Oh, we're neighbors, big hug and everything. Instant rapport because they are more like you than somebody else. They are more like you than the 1 billion Chinese. So even though you'd meet this person in other circumstances, you wouldn't have that same feeling, but in China you would because you feel connected. So what we want to do is have that same feeling with prospects, where they say, you and I think the same, or both from Denmark, or whatever country you're from. Well, we both want to live longer. Or there's an old saying that people find dying young inconvenient. There's an old saying that your face is your best first impression if you sold skincare. There's an old saying, he said, well, what could I put in as a fact right after that old saying so people would kind of like automatically believe it? He said, once I have that, it's going to be pretty easy. So let's do a little thing at the end to wrap this up. He said, well, okay, they agreed to a presentation. I showed them how it all works. But they're staring at me. I'm staring at them. They're staring at me. I'm staring at them. Somebody's going to have to talk. How am I going to close these people? By saying, do you want to buy? It's kind of icky. Kind of like chance of rejection. So what could we say at the very end just to kind of wrap it up so we feel good and they feel good so they don't feel pressured and also so we never get rejected? So you could say, depending on how professional you are, if you cover the problem, you could say, based upon what we talked about here, do you feel like this solves your problem? And if they say yes, well, let's get started. They say, well, that was pretty easy. So it's based upon what we discussed, do you feel like this solves your problem? They say, wow. So closing at the end is really easy. Right. Here's a second way to close, just so you have it another way. 9 words to memorize. The 9 words are, so what is going to be easier for you? What is going to be easier for you? And then we're going to give them 2 choices. Choice number 1 is our wonderful offer that we're going to offer them. And choice number 2 is to keep your miserable life. So what's going to be easier for you? To continue exercising, starving yourself, eating funny foods, and watch the weight just keep coming back? Or to use this magic weight loss one time and keep your weight off forever? So it's going to be easier for you, working out at the gym and try to burn off all these calories? Or to use our 5-second solution first thing every morning? So it's going to be easier for you. You say, well, all right, I got it. I can close. I can do everything except, I have one little problem left. When I start my presentations, they say, yeah, I want the outcome. Let's sit down. I don't want to feel like I'm pushing my program on them or trying to take advantage of my relatives or friends. So is there anything I could say at the beginning, some magic words to kind of relieve all those programs in their mind? And the answer is yes. You could say, this may or may not work for you. This may or may not work for you. And when we say that, they say, wow, there's no pressure. Sounds like I'm going to have options. I'm going to have a choice. When you say this may or may not work for you, you're saying it's going to be probably my decision. No pressure from you. I can relax. I don't have all these negative feelings. Now, if you're saying, yeah, but I want to be a little bit more pushy, all right, you can say this. And it goes like this. You can say, this works brilliantly for me, but it might not work for you. So you can put a little sales pitch in there. This works brilliantly for me, but it might not work for you. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but you didn't tell me how to explain the compensation plan or how to talk about the research of the product and how it's breakthrough technology. And the reason is it probably doesn't matter as much as we think. We would love to believe that that's how people make decisions on logic. And if people made decisions on logic, nobody would ever get married. Think about that. So with that, let's open up for a few questions here about talking to people in a more professional way, like the top earners do.
Brilliant. I like the last one. Nobody would get married if if it wasn't based on emotions. Anyway, and also based on what we discussed, do you feel like this solves your problem? I think that's absolutely amazing. So, any questions out there? I have a couple. Andrew, you're opening your microphone, I think. No, you're not opening. Well, while people are thinking about questions, I have a couple. What do you say to somebody when they ask you, what do you do for a living? You met them at a networking event and you've never met them before. And so they ask you, what do you do for a living?
I wrote a whole book on that, but let's we don't have time for that. So let's do a couple short things.
Because the most common one is that people start to babble about their like it becomes unbelievably awkward. And that's how it probably was for the first 10, 12 years.
Here's a quick fix. All you have to say is, I show people how to. And that will put you on the right path. Because that means you're only going to be talking about the solution or the outcome. I show people how to. I show people how to lose weight without going to sweaty gyms and lifting weights. I show people how to feel healthier without having to take handfuls of vitamins. I show people how to. That was pretty easy. Now, a second way of doing it, which is a little bit more professional, would be we're going to start off with a magic word phrase that builds rapport. And the magic word phrase is, well, comma, you know how. Now, as soon as we say, well, you know how, what is their subconscious mind thinking? Well, if I already know how, and what I know is true, then this must be true. No further proof needed. So if you just start out by saying, well, you know how, you're going to watch the instant phenomena. When you say, well, you know how, you're going to see the other person start nodding their head uncontrollably, even though they haven't heard the rest of the sentence. All I'm going to ask is that you don't laugh. Keep a straight face, and just be rude. So let's try this. Well, you know how most people want to fix this problem. Then you're going to tell them what the problem is. Well, you know how most people hate Monday mornings. I show people how to have 3-day weekends every week for the rest of their lives. Well, you know how commuting to Brussels is a nightmare in the morning where you're following traffic all the time. Well, what I do is I show people how to work out of their homes so they don't have to commute. So that's a little bit more professional way of doing it. That's just the shortcut. But there's lots of ways to take it up to umpteen levels, but that'll put most of us ahead of 99.9% of the people there, which would be enough for us to really stand out as the only people there knows what's going on.
I'm just taking some notes here because this is brilliant. And now, like first of all, the first formula I have here, like I help people get a solution without the problem. Right? I help people lose weight without going to the sweaty gyms. You know,
that's nice.
It's really, really good. You know, and so that's an extra thing you can do. That like you get these things without this problem that you normally associate with getting this thing. Right?
Yeah. So let's just imagine it's a diet problem. You could say, well, you know how most diets are hard. Come on, really? Who would have guessed that one? That's like instant mind reading. Or you could have probably said, if you're like most people, you know that most dieting is hard. This is getting easier now. See? So if you're like most people, you know that dieting is hard. I show people how to diet with a simple 5-second solution, which could be taking a couple diet capsules or something, or a 30-second solution by taking a protein shake. Now, think about this. What's the subconscious mind going to be thinking? The subconscious mind thinks, I'm not lazy. I just have to conserve energy in case dinosaurs chase me later. That's the thinking. So the human mind is always looking for the easiest way out. When you make the easiest way your solution, it's a no-brainer. The subconscious mind tells the conscious mind, just shut up and say yes.
Fantastic. Any questions for Tom out there? I'm still taking some notes here. No, I can keep on asking. I think people they're a bit starstruck. Tom, they don't.
Yeah,
they don't.
I'm really intimidated.
I think Debbie's raising her hand.
Yeah. I've got a quick question. I love the process, the 5-step process, but you know, when they've made a decision that they like what we've talked about, then you talk about the presentation. What would you recommend in that? Because I think our tools is videos or a PowerPoint. Do we do a presentation on a one-to-one with the person, or what would you suggest?
Okay, there's a whole science about presentation and making it simpler. So we can't become experts here overnight. So we say, well, what can we do for the presentation? Say, all right, here is one solution. Not the only solution, just one solution. The one solution is, all right, they're thinking, gotta give a presentation. I gotta clear off. I gotta set up a video. Person's thinking I'm going to be a salesman. What am I going to do? A lot of issues going on in their heads. All right. So what am I going to do then? So how about this? I'm going to give you 21 words. And these 21 words are all you're going to need to know to do a world-class presentation. Now remember, it's not the only way, but it's one way. Just to give an example that the skills are not that hard to learn. So here is the first 7 words. We're going to say, what would you like to know first? So well, why would we say, what would you like to know first? Because we want to know. And they will tell us exactly what they want to know first. And here's what's interesting. You're going to come across some personalities don't want to know anything. They just want to get started. And there's other personalities that want to know every detail since the history of mankind, the accountants and engineers. But we don't know that unless we ask. What would you like to know first? So this keeps us from doing long presentations to people that don't want it. I think that's polite. So you say, what would you like to know first? And you say, that's just like mind reading, isn't it? Yeah. They tell us exactly what's on their mind. And they're going to talk about probably the most important thing to them. Now, when they ask us this question, here's our strategy. We're going to answer the question as short as humanly possible. Short as humanly possible, but still be as complete. So let me give you an example. So they ask you, you asked me, what would you like to do first, Big Al? And I said, well, I'd like to know the name of the company. And you say, well, the name of the company is XYZ Company. That wasn't hard, was it? So, Big Al, what do you like to know first? Well, do I have to sell to my relatives and friends? The answer is no, you don't have to do selling here because we do it all by social media or something. So the first question is, what would you like to know first? Answer as short as humanly possible, then immediately say these next 7 words. What would you like to know next? And we will continue asking, what would you like to know next? Until we run out of questions. So we have 14 words already, right? What would you like to know first? What would you like to know next? So let's see how that sounds in real life. So let's say that Patrick asked me, so, tell me about the business. And I said, what do you like to know next, Patrick? He says, well, this is a good company. Yeah. So what would you like to know next? Well, are they established? Are they legal here in the EU? Yes, they are. So what would you like to know next? Well, can you tell me a little bit about how how they found the product? What would you like to know about it? Or they discovered it, whatever. Yeah, all right, blah, blah, blah. Then what would you like to know next? We will continue asking what would you like to know next until they run out of questions. Now, here's the interesting thing about prospects. They run out of questions after about 3. I never would have guessed it because I'm a detail person. So I said, what would you like to know next? Well, can you make a lot of money with your company? Yeah. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, how does the compensation plan work? Oh. So the compensation plan, if you have a lot of people on your team and customers that use the product, then you're going to make a lot of money. If you have fewer, you make less. So what would you like to know next? No. What I meant was the details, like, the 2% PV legs or whatever. Oh. Yeah, all the compensation plan details. That's covered in the training program. So what would you like to know next? Guess that's it. And then we're going to say the last 7 words. What would you like to do next? You notice you really only have to memorize 7 words 3 times. They're almost the same. So what would you like to do next? Now, people are going to do what they're going to do, right? Because the subconscious mind is going to tell them based upon what we gave them to make a decision on. So what would you like to do next? And they say, well, I'd kind of like to get started. Okay, let's get started. So what would you like to do next? Can I wait till Friday? I don't get paid till Friday. Friday's a good day. So what would you like to do next? Well, I'd like to think it over. I think everything over. Everything. I mean, my parents told me, don't do anything unless you've thought it over for 3 days. And I'm thinking, wow, going to the toilet must have been a really tough decision. But so what would you like to do next? Well, I just want to think it over. Great. Think it over till when? Till the holidays. Okay. Which holidays? Christmas 2035. Okay. Do I call you or you call me? All right, I'll put it on our calendars. We're done. That wasn't so hard. All right, what would you like to do next? And they say, I don't want to do this. It's terrible. It's a scam. Nothing good has ever happened to me. I'm a professional loser. I just want to stand on the edge of the cliff. Would you help push me off the cliff? Gladly. I'm here to help. That's it. Just ask them what they want to do next. What you want to do next. Not what I want to do next, what you want to do next. They say, so really, you're not trying to convince them? Nope. Persuade them? Nope. Manipulate them? Nope. What we're trying to do, we're trying to get them to set aside all their subconscious mind prejudices. Just listen to a really good option. And then based upon what's happening in their life, they can make a decision if this is a good time for them or not. That's all. We don't know what happened to them right before we came. They could have just been served divorce papers, or got fired from their job, or their son got trouble at school, or they got a notice from the tax authority. We don't know what happened to them right before we met them. We're not in charge of their life. All we're in charge of giving them a really good option. And if we're good, we can remove all the negative stuff that they have in their brains so they hear our good option, and then they can judge fairly if it's going to serve them or not. Now, for some people, it's just going to be about timing. Like the person that walked past that Apple store, it's timing. They don't need an Apple phone right now. Time, no matter how good your product is, it's timing. For instance, I happen to like buffets. I just came back from a buffet not too long ago. I love buffets, and you can probably guess why. So I go to the all-you-can-eat buffet in your town, and around 1:30 in the afternoon, they say, all right, lunch is over. We're going to have to roll you out, Big Al. So they're trying to push me out the door. Got to roll you out. I can barely breathe. I'm blowing up. And you're outside the door, and you say, wow, I just heard about this great pizza place. Let's go over and have a pizza. And I'm thinking, oh, the timing is not good. But if you waited an hour, oh yeah, I'd be hungry by then. So we have to respect that people have timing. For us, every moment of our life was not the perfect time for us to join a network marketing opportunity or buy a product. So we respect that. But when they have a problem, they desperately want to fix that problem, and we're there offering a chance to fix that problem, they're going to like the outcome. So that's a 21-word sales presentation formula that's easy for anybody to remember, and you don't feel like you're trying to push some sleazy sales presentation on people.
Okay, that's it. Let me know what was the most valuable thing you learned. And also, if there's any other top income earners you want me to interview, tell me in the comments and I'll do my best to make it happen. See you in the next video. Bye for now.